Welcome to Happy Hour. Um, you will notice we have a new name for our happy hour. We are no longer Drinks with the Bees. We are now Buzzing with Romance Happy Hour. So, welcome everyone. We are super excited to have everyone here. Uh,
Hi,
t-
everybody.
so tonight we have um our guest of honor is author Lexi Blake,
Hi.
and with me is my co-host Leah.
Hi, everybody.
So we'll say hi. If you guys are here, say hello in the chat. We will happily love to hear from you and all that good jazz. So we are having a pre-release party tonight because you have a new book dropping
I do on
on
Tuesday. Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yay! And this is The Masters and Mercenaries Reloaded. So this is the
Uh-huh.
second group of them. So we're gonna
Yes.
get some
So
kids.
yeah, so we in the last book of the spinoff that was called The Forgotten, we actually had between part 1 and part 2, 7 years happens. So we kind of move into I had a group of men who were much younger. They're like in their early 20s, early to mid 20s. So we're going to deal with those kind of heroes at this point. And some of the heroine of this book actually came from Butterfly Bayou. And
Yes, but
she
wait,
is
we're gonna get into all that.
okay,
Yes, because
okay,
Leah has so many questions. So,
okay.
hi everybody. We have Susie's with us, and Annette, and Chloe, and Kayla, I think. Annette, Nicole, and Jennifer. Welcome everyone.
And if
Um,
Becky ruined your name, please, she doesn't know how to pronounce words or names half the time. So you just have to
yeah,
bear with her.
I'm really terrible at names. The worst, actually. Okay, so Leah, read us Lexi's bio so everyone can know who she is, and
Okay.
then I'll give the rules.
New York Times and USA Today best-selling author Lexi Blake lives in North Texas with her husband, 3 kids, and the laziest rescue dog in the world. She began writing at a young age, concentrating on plays and journalism. It wasn't until she started writing romance that she found success. She likes to find humor in the strangest places. Lexi believes in happy endings, no matter how odd the couple, threesome, or foursome may seem.
So, the rules for tonight are you can ask all the questions you want in our chat. We'll do our best to answer them. In the description of the video is links to all the places to connect with Lexi. You're going to want to link and subscribe to all that good stuff. And if you stick with us till the end of the evening, one lucky person will win a swag-filled box of goodies from Leah and I. And I found the cutest wine glass at Joann's today. It says love potion. So, and I'll even put the recipe for a drink called the love potion in the cup for you.
It's pretty potent.
It is pretty potent, but it's delicious. So let's kick this off in the traditional bees way. Miss Lexi, what are you drinking tonight?
I have a lovely New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. This
Mm.
is the most basic of wines. It is. It's basic. Yeah, it's Kim Crawford. I actually dedicated a book to Kim Crawford once. Yeah.
Okay, that's
I
fantastic.
I I contribute heavily to the gross domestic product of New Zealand. So to all of New Zealand, you're welcome.
That is fantastic. Um, Leah, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking what is called fisting in a Mexican prison.
Oh
It
dear.
is tequila and lime and cranberry juice.
Actually, that sounds good.
It does.
That is the worst name I have ever heard for a
It,
drink, though.
it is. And so, no, I found it and I texted Becky. I'm like, I think I'm going to make this tonight just because of the name.
So fantastic. So, in my very basic bitch Becky way, I'm having a vodka gimlet tonight because I have a thing for vodka. As my t-shirt says, V is not for Valentine's, it is for vodka.
Yeah.
Vodka makes me a nicer person. That's all I'm going to
Makes
say.
you happy.
So, okay, so let's kick things off. I am going to put Lexi's Goodreads link in our chat. Apparently, when I did this last time, I said I'm going to throw up in the chat, and people were concerned that I might actually be vomiting. I am not. So I'm trying to get better and not say throw up. I'm trying to say I shall place the link to Goodreads in the chat. If you
You
are
must be
not,
fancy.
I must be fancy. Better word choices. Um, but the more vodka I drink, I do not guarantee better word choices.
That
So
is okay.
be warned. Um, so if you're not following Lexi on Goodreads, you totally should. Then you can be in the know of all her awesome books. So, first question: what made you write romance?
I read romance. It's what I grew up loving. I mean, I was an English major in college, so I've read all of the classics, and I classics are great, but anytime I wanted to enjoy myself or to comfort myself, I would always find myself reading romance. My mom read it, and it never clicked in my head that if you love to read it, you really should write it until
Yeah.
I was about, I want to say I was about 25, 26. And this is a long road, just so we know. I'm not one of those, oh my gosh, I decided one night to do this. And no, I wrote 3 books over the course of about 10 years, and they were all 3 different types of romance. One was a historical, and the reason it will never come to the light of day is because it's built on a historical inaccuracy that I should have known. This is why I am not a historical romance writer, because those women know how to research. I know
Fair.
how to go on the internet and go, what gun is this? I'm much better at that. I wrote a contemporary and I wrote a paranormal, and those 3 books are under the bed and will never see the light of day. Then I wrote another 9 books before I actually published. So
Okay.
9.
9, but those actually did end up getting published. So.
Okay. Okay. Um,
Do you
so
like do
go
you
ahead,
have
Leah.
like a favorite like trope or author or genre that you personally read now?
I read a lot of historically through my life. It's historically like I've loved like Jane Ann Krentz. I really connected to her when I was younger because she was the first time I'd read all the Julie Garwoods and the all the ones where this is a perfect, beautiful female and a perfect man. And Jane Ann Krentz was the first time I read a nerdy kind of woman
Yeah.
and realized that I could actually be the heroine of this book. So she's still one of my favorites. My obsession right now is, like everybody else, is Sarah J. Maas. Who, because I she changed the date of her book, so now it's coming out on Tuesday, and I'm like, I would buy her book before mine. Why? But Court of Thorn and Roses has been, I just love it. I read a lot of paranormal too.
Yeah.
I
Court
like a good paranormal.
Court of Thorn and Roses, like that is the book I see on TikTok, and we'll get to our TikTok obsessions in a bit. But that book is on TikTok, Rex, like non-stop. I constantly see it, and across all sorts of age demographics and everything.
That is my dog coming in. Hi, baby.
That's okay. We like puppies. Sometimes if you watch closely over my shoulder, my Aussies will come in and the one likes to hump the other one. It makes
Oh,
for some
nice.
extra good TV. So, and they're
That's
both boys. So it's a good time. Um let's see here. Oh, my mother's watching. Hi,
it.
mom.
Sh-
Um
She's praying you drink lots of vodka.
she is praying I drink lots of vodka. And then Demi is with us, and Catherine says she already follows you everywhere. Um and I'm going to put Lexi's link for her Amazon. I just recently learned how beneficial it is to follow
Oh,
authors on Amazon.
yes. It's so helpful.
Well,
It's
not
helpful for
okay.
all of us
I was
because you
gonna
get
say
the little thing
you.
that says this book came out.
Yeah, that's the part that's really great is I am terrible at keeping track of release dates. So you get a little notice when it goes up for pre-sale, and you get another little notice when it is released. And that's like, and I know it helps you guys with your searches
Oh, yeah.
and stuff. But so if you have, like, follow Lexi on Amazon, it helps you, it helps her. And since we have to play the man's game with the Amazon,
That's
follow her.
right.
That's what I say. Okay, so the Masters and Mercenaries series is primarily with um and then I also read the Lawless family
Uh-huh.
group, and that's and I found you actually because you wrote the Perfect Gentleman series with Shayla
Uh-huh.
Black, and we'll get to that too, but that's kind of how I fell down the rabbit hole and found you. But you primarily write in a BDSM world. I mean, that's a fairly large component in lot of your books
In
that
a
are
lot
your
of, yes.
contemporary. So, what made you decide to go that route?
It was, I read a lot of BDSM. I kind of got interested in that kind of lifestyle. And quite frankly, when I first started, 50 Shades was huge. And I'm doing a little bit of writing to the market there. But I also, what I fell in love with was how we can use BDSM as, um, it's like a metaphor for how we talk to each other. Not even a
For
metaphor.
sure.
It's a great way to for couples to talk to each other about sex, to be open, to be honest, um to get rid of a lot of the shame that we have. And it not only helped me, to write the stories I wrote, it really helped me as just a human being, being able to say what I need, say what I want. When you can say the deepest things you want, it gets easier to do that in your regular life.
Yeah. Well, you learn when you read these styles of books, you learn very quickly how important communication is
Yes.
amongst between the couples and in their lives, and that resonates with me every time I read one. I'm like, okay, so if I've been married to my husband for almost 22 years, and it's like we have if we hit a rough bump, I in my head from all these books I've read know, okay, communication is the first place where we're probably missing each other.
Yeah.
um and I like the sexy steamy books. I mean, I'm a huge fan, so
And just for everybody who's coming to me from like Butterfly Bayou, which is a much it still has open door sex scenes, but it's not as hot. There my
I disagree with that. Like, I
I like
think
to
it was
call
just as
my
much.
version of BDSM is sugar cake. It's kind of light. It's not like the total power exchange, which I've read somewhere that's great and fun, but mine is kind of kept to the bedroom.
Mhm.
Because there always has to be a club, that.
Of
well,
course.
yeah, yeah. um so Leah, you had a question.
Yeah, I recently saw either on your Facebook page or on Goodreads or somewhere that you had no plans to end the Masters and Mercenaries series as a whole. Since you started this Reloaded series, are you gonna cut that original one off and just stick with the Reloaded, or are you gonna go like
Oh
bounce
yeah,
back and
yeah.
forth?
So it's just kind of a follow through.
Okay,
Honestly, I was at 15 books, and
right.
when you tell somebody that if I connected all of them, I think it's like 50 books. When you like look at that and think, oh my God, I have to read 50 books, some people just run the other way as fast as they can.
Oh, I go down the rabbit hole hard.
So I kind of tried to make it those first 15 books are kind of the first um saga, I guess.
Okay.
If you look inside those books, it's really in thirds. The first five books tell five couple stories, but they have an overarching story.
Right.
The next five books do the kind of the same thing, and then the last five do it as well. So
Okay.
it's this is starting a new kind of overarching. We've got a new bad guy. Each book will have a bad guy, but we've got a new kind of big threat out there.
Hmm.
Okay.
So that's kind of the way I view it. And so in the bigger Masters and Mercenaries world, this is just kind of putting it like this is over here. Eventually, I'll move on to the kids. But the good news is there are so many kids that I will die before I can finish writing. Like they are prolific. There are so many of them out there. I don't remember who they are.
Do you have a Bible? Did you create
I
like a
do.
spreadsheet or a Bible of all
I
your
have a
A family
500
tree.
page Bible.
Oh my.
I have a 500-page Bible. I can't do the family. Somebody did one though. And it's actually if anybody ever wants to see what that family tree for Masters Mercenaries, I think she put in Butterfly Bayou, Lawless. She connected a lot of them
Well,
in
because
there.
everything connects.
Yeah,
Because I had read this, I had not read your Butterfly Bayou series previously. I had read a couple of your Masters and Mercenaries, and I really enjoyed them. But I had read the synopsis for the first Butterfly Bayou, and I was like, wait, these names sound really familiar. So I had to read it because all of your series interconnect in some way. Like there's little pieces of everybody everywhere.
yeah, it's kind of like it's my universe, so I think it's just the weird way my brain works, or maybe it's that I came from comic books,
Okay.
and it's there's a reason I call my little group the LLU, like the MCU,
Yeah.
the Marvel, yeah, because they do kind of all connect, and there are. I want to say you can still enjoy these books if you just read them one at a time and pick them up,
Oh,
but you read
definitely.
them the way they're meant to be read, you pick up more things.
Yeah.
Lots.
Well, and I
I'm big on Easter eggs.
Well, and so like I said, I kind of came into your series a little backwards. I started with The Perfect Gentleman,
Uh-huh.
that you wrote with Shayla Black, and I just adored that series, and it sucked me in. And then I had to wait like 9 months for the last book, and I
Yeah.
was like, it was very stressful. It was very stressful for me. But anyway, it's okay. I'm better now because I've read it and I'm good. Um, but then from there, I like looked up your name and I'm like, oh, what other books does she have? And when I went through my library, the Lawless brothers or the Lawless family came in, and that has this tie-in to the Masters and Mercenaries. So
Yep.
after I finished those three books, which if you haven't read those books, they're phenomenal. And I'm not a huge romantic suspense person, but they're very good. They
Oh,
are
thank you.
very good. Um, so then it made me go because of the tie-in to Masters and Mercenary. I had to like, oh, look at over here, all these pretty books for me to
Mhm.
read.
There's a lot
So
of. I
there's
like to say that I kind of tried to make up for all the years I didn't write books. Like, so now I write a lot, and just so because we're in the midst of Romance Landia's latest problem, I don't know any ghostwriters who would touch my stuff. Yeah, you've got to have pretty intimate knowledge of all of it.
right.
So,
Yeah. No ghostwriter is touching your
no,
stuff.
no ghostwriters.
You're a little too
No.
complicated with your 500
Yeah, there's
page
a
Bayou.
complexity there that people aren't ready for.
Yeah. Oh my god. We could talk about that later. Let's see here. Did somebody said Brandy said I started with Bliss, but the process is so much richer when you start to see all the connections. Um without a Bible you would probably forget who did what if
I
you
do
didn't.
that often, often.
Um
And sometimes I will do especially I write an urban fantasy series called Thieves, and that involves like real world building. Like what do not that building another world isn't, but things like what do my werewolves do? What do my vampires do? What are the rules of this world? Yeah, sometimes I forget them and have to rewrite the book. I did
yeah.
that on one of them. I somebody came back and they were like, well, I have two people who keep up with my Bible, and Maria came back going, yeah, this is wrong. And I'm like, I'm 75,000 words into this book. How could I have done this?
But at
That
least you
would be
have people that check you for that because
Oh,
you
yes.
hate to
No,
write an entire
absolutely.
book and have it finished and out there, and then you have your fans come back and say, "This isn't
Oh,
right."
because they will.
yeah.
Because they will. They absolutely will.
Well, I think when you have a catalog as big and as interconnected as you have, and your fans are dedicated, as I sit here and watch our chat blowing up right now,
Uh huh.
um, if you got something wrong, your fans would be at you. They'd be like, "Lady,
No, they are lovely, but they will be like, what is this? They'll
what
be
did you
like,
do?"
they are all lovely. They'll be like, Lexi, I love you. What did you mean by this? I'm like, I meant to write that a different way. I mean, the
Uh,
great thing about an ebook is like, are you on an ebook? Oh, I can go fix that, re-upload it. Oh, I didn't do that one.
You read
Now
that
the
wrong.
problem is the audio is forever.
Right. Audio is forever. So what's the difference between Lexi books and Sophie Oakes books?
Um, honestly, not much now. At one point in now my Alexa is going off. Hold on.
Oh,
Oh, that's
Yeah. Yep.
oh, because I said
So we're gonna unplug her. Sorry, smart house. It's
that's
too
okay.
smart for its own good.
yeah, he does that too.
I
Yeah,
have
it's
the
really
same
funny.
problem.
When I was watching Schitt's Creek, every time they would say Alexis, for Alexis Rose, Alexa would come on. I'm like, no. So, there's really not a lot of difference. In the beginning, I wrote as Sophie Oak. I got into a contract that basically I realized that I needed a way out. I was not legally allowed to write anything for anyone but the company, and they owned my name.
Mm.
And so, really, pretty quickly, and this particular small press was known for writing menage. They were a great menage house. So a lot of my Sophie Oak stuff was cowboys and menage.
Okay.
When it came down and I had written The Dom Who Loved Me, I realized this is not probably the best place for this book. And I had to take a new name. Therefore, Lexi is born over here. And I'm really glad I did that because I had more control over my career and more control over what I could write and how I could kind of present myself.
Yeah.
So now there's not so much difference between Sophie and Lexi. Then yeah, it was two completely separate brands.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, I know other authors that have had similar situations where because of publishing contracts and
Mhm.
the way they're written and the way things are done, um, they have to add a second pen name or,
Yeah.
and wait things out. And I know that sometimes it can
Yep.
get kind of crappy having
Dicey.
to wait things out and stuff. Um, Laura says, I just asked a dad on IG to promise me he would look up Lexi, Eminem, and Thieves books with an open mind.
I oddly have a lot of male readers. It's
Do you?
surprising. Yeah, I think that their wives kind of get them into it because there is such a I have a kind of a harder suspense angle to some
Mm-hmm.
books.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guns going off. I've got a friend of mine who likes to do like truth and cover quotes, and all of her truth and cover quotes for me are this guy gets shot. Yes, dude, this dude's gonna get shot. Like, so I think that some women can get their husbands into reading or boyfriends into reading them from like the spy angle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and your suspense is so well done too with those series that I think that it does kind of fill the void that it's not just all relationship heavy.
Yeah.
There's a really good balance in your stories between the two. So so we kind of talked a little bit about Perfect Gentleman. So does your writing style or process change when you're buddy writing um with someone, or does your process change when you're writing with Sophie Oak, or is it just kind of Lexi sits down and writes?
No, it doesn't change as much. The editing process kind of changes. Shayla and I have a process that is different from most co-authors that I know. And I know it's very different from what she does with her other co-authors.
Mhm.
I write very quickly, and so I will tend to we will plot a book together, and then I will tend to sit down and write a first draft.
Okay.
And then I will hand it over to her to kind of flesh things out and to put her touches in it, and she really works on like the romantic scenes, and then we edit from there on. So that's kind of our process. I don't think it's very different than what I would do just in my book, except that the editing process is a little different.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that the process of authors, doing something together is I find it fascinating because, as an art being an author is a type of art, and you have a very, a way that you do it and the way you develop it, and when you add someone else in, one of the things that I love about your writing is your voice is very clear. Like, I know when Lexi is writing. And sometimes when you bring in another voice, it gets mashed up and
Yeah.
it starts to kind of feel gray and sticky. And any book that I've read that you've done, with somebody else, it doesn't get mushy. Like, your voice still comes through very clearly. And so I find it fascinating. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, I can't do. I know some people like to do the thing where they take a character and like I'm going to take the heroine and you're going to take the hero, and they almost do it like it's
Flip flop.
almost what's the word? Like it's not a stand up. It's like see, I'm not good with words now either.
That's okay. Keep
Yeah, it's
drinking.
like
They'll come to you later.
you're acting. It's like you're just playing off of each other. But for me, I lose the narrative that goes on outside the dialogue when I do that.
Yeah. Someone wants to know, will there be more in the Masters of Menage series?
We have been trying to write that 8th book for a couple of years. We took some time to write Perfect Gentleman. Now our problem is scheduling, because you've got 2 authors, you've got 2 schedules, and we both have contractual obligations, in which, like last year, I published 3 Butterfly Bayou books.
Right.
Well, I had blockout zones where I couldn't publish anything for all 3 books before and after publication. So we just need to find a good time. I think last year we realized that if we were going to get a book out, it had to be like on 1 week during the year, and it just didn't fit with our schedule. So as soon as we've got a great plot, we've got a great title, I believe we have a cover.
Timing.
Yeah,
just time. But you know what, though, as a reader, and I'm a prolific reader, I don't mind waiting for a book. Like, I'm not, unless it ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
so get a little
this one does not end on this is not a cliffhanger. That's why we wanted to make sure we finished up PG.
Yeah.
Because it did have this overarching plot, and it would be, and it was not easy, but we had to finish that series. Because I don't know if y'all know, it was actually dropped by the publisher after 3 books.
PG was?
Yes, the last 2 books are independently published. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yes.
What is wrong with that publisher?
Well, the funny thing is, they're still my publisher.
What is wrong with them? Okay, so I'm going to put Lexi's TikTok up in the chat. She is on TikTok. We are also on TikTok. I will tell you, our TikTok is, I pay my girl child in fancy coffee drinks that I DoorDash to my house because we're in a pretty tight quarantine. And she makes TikToks in exchange for fancy coffee drinks to be delivered to my house.
I mean, I would make TikToks for fancy coffee drink payments. So
she gets, like, some caramel marshmallow coffee drink thing, and then she's a happy girl and makes like 6 TikToks. So Lexi, are you liking TikTok? I haven't figured out how it's going to actually.
Okay, we're going to have to, I'm old. Remember the basic, look at the side part on my hair. Look at the side part.
Side part. I know. And I'm wearing skinny jeans. And I'm wearing skinny jeans.
Oh, I'm not. I'm wearing yoga pants. You can't see that.
She's got the business on the top, party on the bottom.
Oh, yes. So let me just say, I am on TikTok because Maria said you have to be on TikTok now.
Thanks, Maria.
Yes, and Chloe and Maria is like our little. She's the youth in our team.
The youth.
Oh, the youth. Because let me tell you, Chloe Vale might not have a side part, but she is wearing yoga pants right now somewhere. Yes, and it's funny because when we all worked at my house, Maria would come in, and she's just this adorable little 22-year-old tiny thing, and she would come in wearing heels and this beautiful clothes, and I'm like, girl, just don't let me rub off on you.
Right.
Like, you keep doing that. But yeah, she set up the TikTok and she's been making a bunch of these, and I've been giving her. She basically asks me questions to give her, and then she makes this content, and I'm like, go for it.
Okay.
Great.
Because
Yeah,
I am just,
that's
I can
basically where we're
barely
at.
tweet. I can barely tweet, and I'm often scared to tweet. So yeah.
Brandy says there's no hate for the side part. And then Annette asks, you mean the side parts are no longer a thing?
They are. I read this somewhere lately that the side part and skinny jeans were.
I
Yeah,
heard this the skinny
Yeah.
jeans are going away, but I
the
live in my
uh
skinny jeans.
the newest generation that's on TikTok, so like the young 20s, are those, is that considered
Oh,
Gen
my
Z?
Z's. Yes, I have some Z's.
I have Z's too. So
Z's.
according to TikTok, the Z's are telling the millennials and the Xers to
Yes.
get rid of their side parts and their skinny jeans. Listen, people, I'm a
Mm.
bigger lady. I have no business wearing a bootcut jean. It just makes my hips and my legs look bigger than they are.
And
And I mean, they're already pretty big. So
they will take my side part from my
I
coat dead hair.
I like my side part.
Me too.
It hides my gray.
if I side part, I just look ridiculous with a side part. Like,
A middle, you mean?
yeah, or a middle part. I look ridiculous.
I have like gray patches and my side hides it.
I think I've had this for so long. I don't think my hair would actually go that
It
way.
just is a natural fall.
Yeah, yeah.
I recently got my hair cut for the first time in 14 months. Because we're on a very tight quarantine in our house, and so I hadn't gotten my hair cut. And she's like, as the girl's cutting it, she's like, I can't believe it's just laying right into line. And I'm like, because I've been wearing the same haircut since like 1995. So yeah, it's gonna go that way. It was sad to be long, honestly. So,
It was
um,
sad. Well,
Annette says, I have a big forehead and I need a side part. You're right. If you have a big forehead, a side part helps kind of
Yes.
calm things down. Um, but I tell you what, I can lose so much time on TikTok, like hours of my life. Books are not being edited or formatted because, sorry, people, Becky's on TikTok. I'm going to tell my editor, hey, listen, can't format that book today because I spent 5 hours on TikTok. Sorry.
looking at dogs.
I didn't know until recently there are different types of TikTok. Did you know this?
Mm-mm.
There's like,
No.
so I'm on pet TikTok because I see lots of dog videos.
Okay.
But my children had to share with me that there is gay TikTok and straight TikTok. If you're on straight TikTok, you see a lot of bare-chested men and women's nipples.
Okay.
And on gay TikTok, it's more creative content, I guess. This
You
is what I
guess.
hear. I don't know. My children are 17 and 15. Their knowledge is way more than mine, especially when it comes to that. So, okay. So, do you like having the instant interaction with social media? Like, so Facebook and
Sometimes. Sometimes it's awesome. Sometimes I do bad things and then the world explodes. So I wrote this scene the other day, and I shouldn't even talk about it here, but I'm going to. This is how I have learned to deal with social media, and I like, especially on my profile page, just my regular profile, to talk about what it's like to write, and to say, I wrote this scene today, and it made me feel like this. And so I wrote this scene, and my first instinct, I go to Facebook, and I'm like, I've cried all day. Like, I went through a box of tissues writing this scene, and I was going to write this thing that said, that was the hardest goodbye I've ever written. And then I realized, if I write that, everybody is going to yell at me and scream and say, did you kill Ian Taggart? And I'm like, I would never kill Ian Taggart. I mean, I would
people
not.
would revolt.
They would
I
revolt.
would never kill Ian Taggart. And I actually haven't killed as many people as I get credit for, because they usually come back. Like, usually. So yeah, sometimes it's really great, and sometimes I feel like I caused a disturbance in the force and it's my fault.
Yeah.
So I have to
Yeah.
kind of watch what I say. So I try to stick to like pictures of my dogs, little snippets of something that doesn't give too much away.
Little teasers, little
Yeah,
tease.
Brandy says Ian Taggart is immortal. Okay, real
yes,
quick.
yes.
So the
On
last name
several planes.
the last name Taggart, I have to ask a question.
Hmm.
Is that slightly a reference to another romance author's a family that she wrote?
No,
It is not. Okay.
it is not. I think you're
Because
talking about Julie. Isn't it Julie Garwin? Who is
Jude
it?
Devereaux,
Jude Deborah. No, I will
which is
tell
my
you
connection to
who
historical
it is in
romance.
reference to. If anybody
Okay.
gets this, it is in reference to Peter Quincy Taggart, who
Okay.
was the commander on my favorite movie, Galaxy Quest.
Yes, that's
Oh,
a yeah, I know my husband loves that movie, like loves that movie. So,
So
okay.
that now my dog is coming back in. Hi,
Well, just
Queen.
so you know, the first time I read that name, I totally gave you credit, I think on a Facebook post several years ago, that I love it when a romance author reference another romance author's, family by paying homage to them. So you could totally
No,
claim it.
it was the Galaxy Quest, and then of
Quest.
course Ian comes from Ian Fleming, who wrote James Bond,
Yeah.
and Sean is a reference to Sean Connery. There's a lot of Bond references all
I love a
throughout.
good Bond reference.
Yeah,
I
because of
gave you
course the first 15 books were all plays on James Bond titles, and
Hmm.
then I was left with Octopussy, which I cannot figure out how to use,
That's a tough
and
one.
so
Mhm.
we've moved on to other spy films, and we'll move from there.
Challenge accepted. We'll have to figure out
That
how to
is a
help you.
challenge. Who can
Yes.
come
Um
up with the best
I had
Octopussy play?
Like Octodom, but I couldn't make
mm,
that work.
that
Yeah, I
one
thought that
doesn't
was
work.
bad. It was bad.
Okay, so here is to sign up for Lexi's newsletter. So if you want to be in the know of what she's releasing and what's going on with her life, make sure you get on her mailing list because that is also super helpful. Um, okay, so you big into the conference circuit? I think that I attended a virtual conference that you might have been a part of earlier this summer. So with COVID, do you miss signings and all the conferences and stuff?
Yes. The funny thing is I have this weird relationship with them. Like for the first part of my career, I had my mom and we couldn't travel a lot because my mom was she was in end of life and she lived here in our house and we took care of her. So I couldn't travel very often then. And then my mom passed and we kind of went on a 2-year crazy travel binge where we just did like every conference we could and we went and we did it great and then we just had to shut everything down this year.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to like finding a balance where because I I've enjoyed being able to be really productive and to be on a really nice work schedule without too much pressure because
Yeah.
it's hard to write when you travel the way we do and you end up going out and doing conferences where you're kind of on for 8 hours a day and you just want to shut your mind off at night,
Right.
which this helps. Thank you again, New Zealand. um but so I am eager to get back out and do conferences. You get a certain energy from them
Hmm.
that I have not had for a year. But I'm going to try to find some balance in my life between them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of what drew us out of the typical traditional because we do have a traditional podcast which is now called Buzzing About Romance. We've recently gone through some rebranding, but what drew us over to this platform was that this allowed not just us to have interactions with the authors, but also the people watching
Yeah,
because that has been one of the most amazing things with the podcast is getting to talk to these to the authors that we love. Like I get to talk about, the Masters and Mercenary and the Lawless Brothers with you. And I wanted to have an opportunity to share that because I know that there are other people that want to have that opportunity also. So that's what led to this platform of doing these happy hours, is so that, it kind of fills the void of not being at a signing, not being at a conference right now, but you still get some of the interaction with
Yeah,
the
and
authors.
sometimes this is a really nice format, because when you're at a conference, you get very little time, even on a panel. You're answering very specific questions, and the audience might only ask two or three.
Right.
So
Yeah.
something like this, I really enjoy being able to answer questions, not just about the work, but about writing, the process, and how to get into the publishing business. Because I love helping young, not younger, newer authors,
Newer
not
authors.
necessarily younger. You can be older, but newbie authors, and how to kind of pursue that dream.
Yeah. And I love it. I love the interaction. I love being able to connect, people together that's just, outside of um in my real life or outside of just book blogging and stuff like that. I love people and connections, and so this has
Well, and it's
provided us.
it's also it's bringing people that might not go to a conference. Like
Yes.
they have the option to do this. Like if they live in an area there's not a conference that's local or they don't have the means to travel, like we have the opportunity to bring them
Mhm.
in this like
Yeah.
Yes, because
happy
don't
place.
our conferences end up being on the East Coast in Florida? Like, it feels like they're always in Florida or New
Or New
York.
York.
Yeah.
Anytime I've been like, "Ooh, there's one on the West Coast," but that we never end up in Middle America. It feels like.
Yeah. So in the chat, I have put the Buzzing About Romance. Our Instagram handle is Buzzing About Romance. We actually have a giveaway going on right now where we're going to gift someone on Tuesday $50 in Amazon money. So go follow, like, and do all the things, and you would have a chance to win $50 of book money, because
That's a lot of
whoever,
books.
I mean, you can never have enough book money. Are we
That's right.
not? Then you can buy on Tuesday, you'll be able to buy Submission
Submission
Impossible.
impossible.
So follow, like, all that stuff. Bye, Demi. Thanks for joining us. She's headed out. So, okay, what's the next question? Why? Oh, why did you re-release, and edit the content for your Bliss series? Are you going to be doing more?
Well, yes. First of all, I put out my first new Bliss book in, I want to say, 7 years. Uh, this last October.
Okay.
It was Happily Ever After in Bliss, and finally, after 7 years, Nell had her baby. Yay! Longest pregnancy ever. Um, I redid them because I drew them into the greater world I had built as Lexi.
Okay.
Okay.
So I got to do some of the things I always wanted to do. The very first, the like Small Town Siren, Siren and City, all of those happened earlier than Masters and Mercenaries in the timeline.
Okay.
And what you find out is that Julian Lodge, who is one of my big people in Texas Sirens, actually put the seed money for McKay Taggart. So I got to go back and put all of my McKay Taggart guys into those books the
Okay.
way I probably would have in the first place. I got to connect them the way my other series are connected. So that's why I did that. And I also, honestly, I got to correct some mistakes I made. Those were done when I was just starting out. Small Town Siren was the first book I published, and it had mistakes in it. I actually ended up, that's the one I did the most work on. I ended up with 3 extra chapters in that book because I skipped steps.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
I was going through your backlog and I had been looking at like the synopsises and like all of the Bliss ones were like re-edited and content added and I was like, "Ooh, are we getting a lot more of this or are we just revamping?"
Yeah,
And
I did not. What I didn't want to do is force anybody to read my books. So I didn't do anything to the books that changed the storyline.
okay.
It was all things that I felt added to the books.
Hmm.
And like, when you get back, I think the little codicils I put on it was some of them are just re-edited.
Right.
And because if they didn't have extensive new content, I didn't want to make you think that they did.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like Back in Bliss, some of the books towards the end really didn't have that much done to them. But the ones in the beginning, especially like I said, the ones where I felt like I skipped these steps that were important to the story.
Yeah. So it's just I mean, and so when you make the decision to rewrite, it's basically just because you've developed more as an author and you want to just kind of bolster up the story to fix your mistakes. Is that kind of the
I
process that
think that
happened?
in some ways in the beginning, what I didn't understand was they wanted you to keep to a certain word count. When I
Okay.
first started publishing with a publisher, they wanted to keep you to a certain word count. So I would skip these steps. And I'm just a person, I write long books. Um, you can't see it when you're reading an e-reader. You don't see like how big a book is.
Mm-hmm.
Most people consider a full-length novel anywhere between 60K and 90K. Well, I routinely write 120,000 words a book.
Yeah.
That's just where I write. Some people can tell you, I mean, I have read some 20,000 word novellas that had everything you would ever need. They did not need to write another word.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just find out where you are as an author, what your count is. I wish I could write that 20,000 word book. I just can't.
But I don't
So
feel like when I go into one of your books, like, and I'm at word 120,000, like, I don't feel like it's been that long.
because that's where I write. Oh my God, the dog just came in.
Yeah. That's Tucker.
I'm sorry,
He's
I'm
going to
dog
take
crazy. I love dogs.
uh,
But that's because I'm at the right place.
Mm-hmm.
If an author is cutting what she or he would normally do, you can usually tell. Like from reading me at 120,000 words, it should just feel like that's the book,
Yeah.
and it's
yeah.
great. So I think that I just was not following my instincts in the beginning the way I do now.
Yeah.
Did you feel like they almost held you back?
No, I think that they were publishers and authors have two different I don't want to say point of view. I want to say almost they have two different goals.
Yeah.
Motivation?
Yes, the publisher wants to sell the book.
Yeah.
The author, I mean, don't get me wrong, the author wants to sell the book too, but we want to tell the absolute best story we can possibly tell.
Right.
Sometimes there are some publishers who would never, ever, ever touch an author's words, or I mean, like they are, and then there are some who they've got a formula,
Mm-hmm.
and the formula works, and they kind of put that's kind of where I found myself, is on this treadmill where I didn't feel like I could get off, and I had to write to this specific thing to make it work. So that's when I kind of took that step and moved over and became Lexi.
Yeah. No.
You felt stunted almost.
Yes. Well,
do,
I definitely felt like I was in a little bit of a cage.
yeah. I think that is one of the amazing things about self-publishing is that you do have some freedom to be a little more artistic and a little bit more, to tell your story the way you want to tell. And, you know, I have read a 200,000 word book and didn't feel that it was overly wordy because it was such a great story. Um,
The deep heaving breaths you hear is my second dog. So
she is
they are
not just
both
a heavy
on their
breather.
way in. Yeah.
Nicole says I have a lot of Lexi merchandise, but there's no Siren merchandise. Any plans for this?
I can fix that. I will work on that.
Okay,
There you
so
go.
I love merch, and I love doing like fun little things with, not like I don't ever do like Lexi Blake. I do like the little businesses that are in the books, and
Mm-hmm.
well, and like I said, I must have gotten a book box or something because I had a bunch of cards for all your books, and I had a can cozy
uh-huh.
for McKay Taggart, and my husband is like, why do you have that? And I was like, it came in a book box. I did not know. Um, so, but we recently had an author on a podcast interview, and someone on the interview asked her why she does a hockey romance. So why
Mhm.
did she not have merchandise? It's Avery Flynn, and that episode
Yes, I was
drops
about
on
to say I
Sunday.
bet it's Avery Flynn.
Yes. So that episode drops on Sunday. Listen to it. We loved talking with her. But one of the girls that was on with us, her name is Sadie. Sadie asked her, she goes, "Hey, how come I can't get like an Ice Knights jersey?" And Avery's like, "'Cause I never thought of
Oh
it."
my,
But
And
then the
next thing
next
we
day,
know, on Tuesday, she's launching her Feed America campaign with her
with
Ice
Ice
Knights.
Knights.
Totally
I,
bought a
I
sweatshirt.
oh no, I the minute you said hockey, I knew it was Avery. I love
Yeah.
her. She's adorable.
Oh, she was so fun. Everybody should listen to that episode. It drops on Sunday. We talked about and that's something too. You kind of mentioned a little bit. Romance Landia itself had some hiccups this
Oh,
week,
we
and
did.
we've had a couple
Bring
of
the drama,
hiccups.
man. We bring it down. Ooh.
Right? We've had a couple hiccups in the last couple of months, actually. Um, but one of the things that we talked about Avery with is so part of what drew me to being a book blogger and in the publishing industry and starting the podcast was I love romance. I've been reading it since I was 14, so I have 30 years of romance reading. Um, in my pockets, and I love it. But one of the things that when you're a romance reader is people take it seriously. They're
Oh
like,
no, no.
"Why do you read
Like
that?"
Fight Club.
Right,
We don't
right.
talk
Like
about Fight Club.
we don't talk about it. And I want to talk about it. There's so much power in romance. It has so much good. And even with all of the drama that might happen, these are great stories that have good messages and power. And I look at like Submission Impossible. You did some big things in this book. You
Hmm.
have a character that has some PTSD and some past trauma.
Mhm.
You have a female character that had some physical disabilities that she's kind of dealing with and
And also
overcome
past traumas.
and past traumas. And it's powerful. Do you feel like
Well, one of the
powerful
things
when you
that I've been very proud that I was able to do in Masters and Mercenaries is I think that we should normalize therapy in all ways. I think therapy is good for everyone.
I 100% agree.
I use a lot of my own. I view a lot of what I write as therapy and getting a lot of things out. When I wrote a book called No Love Lost, and it is about a man who literally spends 7 years getting over his anger issues so he can be with this woman because he goes through all this therapy. I mean, and really, in a lot of ways, that's what happened with my husband. Therapy has done so many beautiful things for my life. But the other thing I really want to do is, since I am writing a lot of military, how can you possibly write military without having PTSD to deal with? Without having, and I write a lot of women who've survived trauma too,
Hmm.
which I think that's very important because I, at one point in time, had a publisher who didn't want to deal with rape survivors because she didn't want, like, and this was not Berkeley, the publisher I'm with right now. Absolutely not. They didn't want to deal with that. And my thought was, but, then you're saying they don't deserve a happily ever after. And, anybody who survived that really freaking does.
Yeah.
So let's hit it head on, and let's also recognize and value the fact that if you have gone through this trauma, sex is not going to solve it. There's no magical penis that's going to make 12 years of trauma go away. So what will is understanding, communicating, going into therapy, dealing with it that way.
yeah.
With Noelle, she and gosh, I hope I do it right. I'm very this, obviously this is not my particular story, though I have many friends who have mobility issues. And I wanted to write about a younger woman who has mobility issues, but that's not really the point of the story.
Well, and it
I
does,
would,
you don't have it define her. Like
yes, it
it's
doesn't
like a
define her,
secondary part of her life.
but it is there. So it's kind of like, I'm going to reference, weirdly enough, Schitt's Creek again. What I loved about watching that was I watched this beautiful romance between two men where homophobia wasn't a part. It was just, that was romance. Like we
Mhm.
get to be in this little pretty bubble for some books. There are others out there who deal with it beautifully and get to the heart of all of it. That's not necessarily what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, kind of have this kind of representation in, and have the beautiful, lovely, happily ever after,
And I
and
love
she
too, because like,
and she can be in a wheelchair.
well,
Yeah.
and I love too, like the first book of your Butterfly Bayou book, like it is like Noelle when she's a teenager and like going through this transformation, like she's a secondary character in that, but she's like a big part of that story.
Oh
And
yes,
like and she's working, like she's finally working through everything that happened to her. But you can like you see such a turnaround in that book versus Submission Impossible, where she's so confident, like she understands her limitations, but she doesn't allow like her physical limitations to limit her in any possible way. And like in Butterfly Bayou, like that was a big talking point, like the
yes,
limitations of her.
because she worked through it, and
Mhm.
she got confidence, and it happened to her at such a tender age where,
That is a tough
yeah,
stage.
and she had lost her mom as well.
Mhm.
And so Lila coming in, because Army is just as traumatized.
Right.
Lila has to kind of come in and shake them up and say, we need to work on this.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that outside force to make you see, I'm
Absolutely you
stuck.
do. Yeah.
And that's something I felt in a lot of places in my life. I've just felt stuck, and you
Yeah.
need to have that makes you go, okay, I need to question what I'm doing and how to move forward. Because moving
Yeah.
forward can be the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah. And in that type of situation too, is like it was a big event. Like it wasn't like a small like
Oh no,
thing.
it
Like there
affected
were
her
like
whole life.
big things happen, and like they both like were like just rotating in this like space where like they couldn't move forward.
Yes, yeah, because to move forward, it's almost to acknowledge the wound, and sometimes that's even worse than being stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do have to give you major props for bringing therapy into it, because that is something, in my married life, my husband, had some issues that we had to do therapy with in our early marriage. And so the fact that you kind of normalize it just helps make our love story that much better. That,
You want to grow together, and sometimes to grow together, and my husband and I talk about this a lot. It's easy to grow apart. It's harder to make the conscious decision to grow together, and sometimes that means having somebody else to talk to.
yeah,
It can be very important. You need a place where you can be 100% honest.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like I said, when you go see your therapist, you yell at me about me all you like. You get it all out.
That was like that's that safe space
Yeah.
though. But that's the thing, like I fully think therapy is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I like that there's no stigma to it. Like everybody is open to it. Like nobody talks down to it in any of your books. And I think that's one of the biggest sticking points too, is like I've read books where they mention therapy, and it's like there's always like one or two characters throughout it was like, is that a necessary thing? But you don't do that. Like everybody is supportive of the therapy.
That's kind of like my perfect world.
yeah,
Everybody's supportive of the therapy, and everybody, like, Sanctum is my like dream space where everybody who walks in that door is beautiful and and honored and respected, and there's no shame, or you know you do what makes you happy.
yeah. And your books do have a beauty to them. They are beautiful stories.
Thank
Even
you.
with all the great steam,
Even
your characters are beautiful. I love your stories. So thank you for sharing them with us. Um Okay, so Brandy says Willow Fork Spa merchandise. That's what she needs.
Okay.
So you best take notes, my friend over there.
I'm sure somewhere out there, Chloe Vale is like on it.
Right. Kai and Leo are the best, Catherine says.
They are my therapists. Yeah.
Are,
They're my therapist characters. Yeah.
yeah. Siren Reborn is my favorite of the Siren series. Kitten's transformation is amazing to see, and that's from Brandy.
Thank you. I loved writing Kitten. She's a character who started out as a throwaway character and ended up being this really big thing for me. She was one of my traumatized females who ends up coming out of it really strong over the course of several books.
And just really everyone's lots of love for your show, that you show the love that you show and respect that you show for disabilities, mental or physical. It doesn't define the person. It's so contrary to what we see socially in perceptions, and you do an amazing job. That's from Brandy. And she
I
believes
tried
in
to. I am still
all the
learning and
benefits.
trying to be better every day.
Okay, so do you have to kind of switch your brain a little bit when you write Butterfly Bayou books? Because there definitely is, the voice changes a little bit. They're beautiful, but they're a little less steamy. They're
They're a little
definitely,
less steamy and they don't have so much suspense. They're very much almost family relationship drama based.
mm-hmm.
I like it. I have I like writing a lot of series because I like the difference in what I get to do in them. I get, if I had to write this romantic suspense over and over and over again, I would get bored.
Mm-hmm.
So I like going and writing something like Bayou Baby, which is this, I mean, it's a relationship, it's a family little saga. It's got a lot, the twists and turns in that are very emotional, and they don't have to do with a grand corporation Illuminati trying to take over the world, which I love too. But it's a little more on the I don't know, realistic life side. I actually, Celeste is one of she's the kind of matriarch of this very wealthy family. And I liked that particular book was as much about her relationship with Serafina as it was Serafina and Harry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy writing those. They're a little more women's fictiony, but still very, very, the romance is the key. And I
Core.
always,
But I honestly, like, I don't feel like reading them, they're any less steamy. It's just a different steam. Like, there's not that, like,
there's no
dominant alpha to it. Like, it
and there's always a
flows
dog.
differently.
And there's always a dog.
Okay.
So the one that's coming out in August has my favorite, my dream dog.
What's your dream dog?
Is a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel.
My neighbor has 2 of them, and they are adorable. And one's a puppy, and my kids were so excited to see it. Yeah, they're cute.
But now what I have right now is, as you can see behind me, my daughter did a painting of our Chihuahua. The last time when we went down to get we had lost our Bella, who we'd had for 10 years. And we went to rescue another dog. We ended up with 2 dogs. Of course. Yeah. We ended up with 2 dogs, but they were named Frodo and Precious. Like, how could
you can't only take one of them?
Frodo and Precious.
Plus, it's the literary reference, so it's like it was calling your name. It was saying, exactly, Lexi.
They're
we are your dogs.
These 2 little broke down dogs who needed a grooming, and I was like, okay, I really wanted to get the spaniel puppy, and I'm like, nobody's gonna take those dogs. I have to save them. Yeah. So
that's fair. That's fair.
So now I've got 3 rescue dogs in my house, and they were all at one time street dogs who now don't want their tender paws to touch like wet grass and stuff. So
we have one who he loves the snow, Like, so right now I'm in Ohio, and right
Uh-huh.
now it's like 2 degrees outside and there's snow on the ground, like 6 inches. He loves that. But if it's raining and muddy, he poops on the deck. And
Yes.
my husband screams and yells constantly about the dog that poops on the deck.
See, mine loves the rain, and it's like
Mine won't.
torrential downpour. And it's like he's still a puppy, so we have him leashed, and so like you have to stand in the rain. He's just like walking around as slow as possible, hanging out.
We are
Do
putting
your
a pool
stuff.
in my backyard right now. So I am having to take the dogs out on leashes and, because normally we've got a big enough backyard. They just go run around in the backyard for a little. No. So now I'm having to do it. And we are in the middle of, I mean, it's 26 degrees in Texas. That is
Yeah.
like
That's
negative
cold for you.
70 someplace else. For us, it's like it's about to be snowpocalypse. And I'm in this parka with it comes up to here and it's got like the big hoodie thing with these two little tiny dogs who have on their own coats. And I look ridiculous, but
Well,
yeah.
I have to laugh because, and I'm going to put up in the chat is our link to our Patreon. And we have it to help support the podcast and to be able to do this kind of events. But also, part of our Patreon is we have Drunk Book Club.
Oh,
And this coming month, we are reading Come Again by Jiffy Kate. And Jiffy herself is in Oklahoma. And on her TikTok today, she was showing pictures of all the shelves in her local Walmart from Oklahoma because
yes.
they're going to get ice. And my sister lives in San Antonio. My sister lives in San Antonio, but she was born and raised in Ohio. And she's like, Becky, these people do not know how to drive. Like, everyone is freaking out. And she's like, but it's nothing. And I'm like, sister, you moved there, not me.
I have lived in Texas all my life. My husband he's spent a good portion of his life in Colorado. So he absolutely knows how to drive in icy conditions. And even he's like, nope, we're shutting down the house. Nobody's going out. Like Texans don't know how to drive, as we proved so recently. But
Right.
I saw that.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
really
it's
bad.
crazy town.
It's oof. And that happened very, very close to me. Yeah, we're supposed to get blizzard-like conditions Sunday.
Ooh.
But I'm just saying, we consider blizzard-like conditions like 3 snowflakes coming down. Everybody's going down to get bread and milk, and
Toilet
like the
paper.
apocalypse is coming. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Laura is headed out. Thank you for joining us, Laura. We appreciate you. We will be back here next Friday night with author Rebecca Yaros, and we're talking to her about her latest release, Things Left Unfinished. So you can always come back and join us next Friday night. Um, Everybody's sharing about their dogs. Like Colleen has a rescue Labrador, 2 rescue cats, and a third who thinks she's a Labrador. Madness, she says. Well, in our house, I have a rescue Tegu lizard.
Menagerie.
I have a rescued snake. We have an African tortoise. And then the 2 dogs and a hamster. And there's some other lizards that live in my house, but I don't know what they are. So
They're just extras.
they're just extras. Well, my girl child is very passionate about reptiles. And
Okay.
that's like what her goal is in life, is to become a
Herpetologist.
herpetologist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And help preserve habitats for reptiles. It's her thing and it's lovely. And her father and I absolutely want to support her. But
Yeah.
there's a snake living in my house, for God's sakes, people.
I am really happy my daughter is dog crazy, because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know what I'd do with snakes. Oh.
It's
No,
funny. So
snakes are not welcome in my home either.
I have a hard time with the herpetologist because on the other side of this, my boy child he's a 4-year post liver transplant kid. And so his doctors are hepatologists. So I often mix up
Yeah.
herpetologist and hepatologist. So forgive me if I screw that up. So anyway, do you still have time to hang out with us, Lexi? Or are you ready to?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Okay, so we have a game
Okay.
for you. Leah came up with it, so she is going to facilitate the game. Are you ready?
Right.
Okay, so we're gonna do a word association game where we say a word and then you have 10 seconds to say the first word that pops into your
Oh,
head.
it could be bad. Okay.
Or it could be
You
amazing.
put it at the end when I've had a lot of wine.
That
That
is
is
why we put
why.
it at the end.
What?
What?
Okay.
I'm on so these vodka gimlets, because he makes them in the big glass so he doesn't have to come back so often. I've already drank one, which was 3 shots of vodka. So this is number 2. So at the end of this, I'll have had 6 shots of vodka.
See, I just go with the coffee mug and you get extra in it.
And then you can just say I had one.
One.
That's true.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
I'm ready.
All right, red.
Oh, shirt, because she's wearing a red shirt.
Rope.
Bondage?
Yes.
No.
Wet.
Ever.
Safe.
Word.
Romance.
Oh, love.
Spaghetti.
Easy night when I don't want to cook.
Read.
More.
Ball.
Gag.
Butterfly.
Bayou.
Master.
Oh, sub.
Steak.
Sauce.
Pizza.
Night.
Family.
Love.
Texas.
A snowpocalypse.
Ketchup.
Mustard.
Leg.
Brace. It was the first thing that came into my mind. I'm old.
Sex.
Oh, positive.
Man.
Woman.
Bed.
Room.
There you go.
That
Those
was
were
good.
good.
Those were good.
Those were fun.
See, I feel like I went safe on some of them, but the ball gag was really just right there.
It just popped out.
Yeah.
So, random funny story. Pre-COVID, so don't judge. This is pre-COVID. One of my husband and I, our favorite things to do was go to our local brewery on a Sunday. And we
Okay.
would be joined by some of our friends, and we'd sit there for several hours. Sometimes our girl child would come with us because she's the only one who would be seen in public with us. And we'd day drink for like 3 hours. Plus.
There's no judgment here.
So one day we were there, and my friend Meg and my friend Seth and David, they joined us. And we were sitting there talking, and I said, guys, I came across a word in a story that I was editing, and I didn't know what it was. So I had to look it up on Amazon because I didn't know what this item looked like, and I wanted to make sure that it was
Oh, no.
physically, yeah. So it was a hook in a
Oh, no.
sexual situation. And I'm like, I didn't know what this was. And they're like, huh? And
Some
the
of those
one
things you can't unsee.
the one guy, Seth, he was like, yeah, it's no problem. I know what that is. And I'm like, okay, but I did it. So then I'm showing them my Amazon search. Then my husband goes on to tell me that our Amazon search is linked in his Chrome. So those are the ads that will pop up on the side of his Chrome when he's searching things. The things that I look up. So you say ball gag, but I mean, I've looked up some stuff on Amazon that my
Yeah,
poor
just
husband.
sometimes you have to look up the word figging, and it doesn't have anything to do with a fig. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
But, there's power in knowledge.
there is. I Google a lot.
I Google a lot too.
as a
I'm
as
pretty
a
sure that I'm on a watch list somewhere.
I feel like every author I talk to says
yeah.
that though. They're like, nobody wants to check an author's like search history.
Yeah, no, because especially when you write like romantic suspense and it's on the hot end, because you've got both figging and what's the quickest way to dispose of a body? How fast does acid get through flesh? Like Mind Hunters is out there going, what can we link her to?
So I love like Dateline, and my husband calls it murder porn. I
Mhm.
love those stories. I love them. And
I
he's always like,
might be with you.
he's like, "Why do you watch these?" And I'm like, "'Cause when I plot your murder, I'll know how to get away with it now." Um, just kidding. I love
Oh,
you.
no. I love true crime. I really
I
do.
love Oh, and true crime podcasts.
Oh,
Um, oh, I love them. And if you don't listen to Crime Writers On, it is 4 true crime authors that have a review podcast where they review other true crime offerings,
oh.
either TV series or documentaries and other true crime podcasts. They're amazing. I love them. Um, but yeah, I have a thing for true crime. Like, you know, I'm super excited, and it's not true crime, but I'm really excited to see the Britney Spears documentary that's on Hulu.
Yeah, Framing Britney Spears.
Yeah, have you read it? Have you
No,
watched it
I
yet?
haven't seen it yet. I've been watching the crime scene that's a Cecil Hotel, the Elisa Land,
Oh,
which
yes.
I studied like beforehand, and I don't think that they break any like new ground with it, but it's really interesting. And I would have watched a whole documentary about just that hotel.
Yes, me too.
That
Did
hotel's crazy.
you did you watch the murder on Beach Road that was the
Yes.
HBO
Oh my
documentary?
God. That was fascinating
Crazy
because
town.
yeah,
Crazy town.
because
And
he's
the
investigating his mom's murder like in real
right?
time. Yeah.
Okay, but I just have to talk for a minute about the gifting tables. Okay, listen,
Oh
people.
yeah.
I'm a housewife. My husband makes a very good living, and I work from home doing copy editing and formatting. I mean, we're okay. Making millions, but we're okay. I'm sorry, I can't come to a dinner party that you're making me bring you $4,000 to. Like, it's not happening here, so I just don't know.
I
Yeah.
would need
No,
new
that's
friends.
Yes,
crazy.
right?
I think though that at least now we know what a Ponzi scheme is.
Right.
Like
That's true.
we could immediately look at that and go, that's not legal. Um, mm,
That whole series was complete crazy town, and I usually get pretty mad at documentaries when we don't get like an ending. Like we don't know, he didn't uncover the murderer. We don't know who, no one's been charged with the murder of his mother. And that usually pretty much makes me angry, but that series was so well done that I highly recommend it. If you
yeah,
like true
it's
crime,
really good.
watch that one. It was very good.
And very different from a lot of what you see since it was so visceral and real because it's him investigating his mom's murder
Yeah.
and finding
Although
these things out in real time.
although his dad needs to be like drowned in toilet water. I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
saying. I have thoughts.
In toilet
Um
water. So
yeah,
eloquent.
just
His
shove
dad
his
was
head
doing
in the toilet.
some
He
shady
was
stuff.
shady, yes. Yes. Annette says that she is scratching me off her guest list for her gifting table. That's cool, Annette. That's totally fair. Um, Lexi, Susan wants to know, will the Hunter series have a spin-off?
Yeah, it's I'm working on it right now. It's called Outlaw. It should
Okay.
come out this year. The first book is called The Rebel Queen.
Okay. Kayla says, my husband says I'm trying to kill him because I love true crime. You're not. You're not trying to kill him. It's just so part of the problem is when early 90s, when I was in the mid 90s, I was in college. I would come home late at night from the bar and Law and Order would be on.
Uh-huh.
And that's what you watched from like midnight to 4 a.m. was Law and Order episodes. And then that just kind of spawned my love of true crime, even though, Law and Order is a little bit ridiculous now that I
Yeah.
rewatch it. But that's, so you're not trying to kill him. Brandy says she cannot wait for Outlaw. Um, so
Yay.
everybody's excited for Outlaw. Yay! Okay, so we have a Mad Lib game. Everybody knows what
Okay.
Mad Libs are, right? So Lexi, give us an action.
Oh, we just talked about true crime, so I want to say stabbing.
A
But
body part.
a heart.
Direction, like north, south, west, up,
West.
down, west.
West.
An adjective.
Hairy. I like to make it good.
A body part.
Oh, big toe.
A verb. Leah, shut up.
Run.
Run. Okay. A body part. Another body part that you haven't mentioned.
Kneecap.
Kneecap. A verb.
Sleep.
Okay.
It's not a
And a
very
noun.
active. Oh, a noun.
Noun.
Trash can.
Trash can.
That's over there. That's what I just looked at. Yeah.
So Leah and I took it upon ourselves because we got to read an early release of Submission
Submission
Impossible.
Impossible.
So we took a passage from Submission Impossible and turned it into a
Oh
Mad
dear.
Lib. So you have
Oh dear.
rewritten. Are you ready?
Okay.
Wow, she liked being stabby. There was an ache in her heart that she could still feel. Every slap he'd given her had gone west to her pussy, and she was wetter than she could have Harry. She glanced up, and Hutch was staring down at her, his big toe filled with dark desire. He was run her, watch her tongue as it licked across his kneecap, watching as she took him into her mouth and laved him with affection. She sleep him and cupped his tight I'm sorry, what was that? What was that one? Noun. I wrote it so
Trash
fast.
can.
Trash
Trash
can.
can. She cupped his
Yeah.
tight trash can and enjoyed the power she wielded over this man. It wasn't anything she could ever abuse. She trusted him, but the idea that he trusted her was important too. Hutch had been through so much, but he was open and honest with her. He was willing to be vulnerable. So, if you enjoyed that
Especially with his
passage,
trash can and his big toe.
right? It's much better in the book. So, you absolutely should follow along and pre-order Submission Impossible. You can find it available on all platforms, right? For pre-order,
Yep,
and it'll be on your
absolutely.
device on Tuesday, which is so
Right.
exciting. Okay, so if you are still here watching with us, which we love and appreciate you, thank you so much for coming with us. Say hello to me so we know you're still here, and we'll add your name into the mix because we have this beautiful Love Potion stainless steel wine glass up for thing. And I went through and I have a ton of Lexi Blake series cards, and I have a candle and hand sanitizer because you can never have enough hand sanitizer,
Never have enough of that right now.
and a metal straw with a cleaning thing. So just give us a hi so we know you're still here, and we will pull a winner, which is great. There's so many people still here. I'm like,
There are a
wow,
lot of people here tonight.
they
This is a
like
great.
us.
They do like us. They like Lexi. It's not us.
It's really not. They're like, I don't even know who these people are. My mother's like, I know I can't win, but I'm still here. She cannot win. She cannot. Because so my girl child makes the book sleeves. And so
Oh,
if she wanted a book sleeve, my girl child would make her one. So that's fine.
Did she make a coffee cozy this time too?
She didn't, but that's because we had to go to Joanne Fabrics and buy fabric today because she needed
Did
felt
you
and
get the Baby
fabric.
Yoda fabric?
We already had plenty of baby Yoda fabric. She needed new baby Yoda, like for the inside that matched it. So, like, where she put it. But if you love baby Yoda, she makes a baby Yoda book
see,
sleeve
my
for
Gen
kids.
Z daughter likes to make dolls out of felt. It's a
Oh,
big thing.
okay.
So this is
Does she
me
do the
not.
felting with the wool and stuff and the?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
and they're really cute. And so she's made these anime characters who I don't know, but she recently watched The Good Place and she's making these little Janet dolls. And
I
they are,
love Janet.
yes, and that's her. They are adorably cute. But I did not go to Joann's Fabric. I ordered it online, and you can't tell how much stuff comes in. Now she can make like 50 Janet dolls.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Lexi,
Mhm.
when this is
It
all
was a
done, you and
lot.
I will exchange addresses and I'll send you a Baby Yoda book sleeve and maybe your Gen Zer can send us a felt something.
Yes,
A
Because
felt
my
I'm
girl
badge.
child wants to learn to felt, but I'm like, oh, that's a stabby tool. I don't know. But she's
well,
all
mine,
crazy with her sewing machine.
yeah, mine has been learning how to sew, and I keep trying to tell her, do not drop a needle in the shag rug. Don't.
Oh, they hurt.
Ooh.
Well, so my girl child is huge into anime
Oh,
and
I do.
she builds tons of cosplay props out of foam, and then she has her grandmother bought her a fancy sewing machine for Christmas that is ridiculous so that
Yeah,
she can sew more costume pieces for all her anime fun. So,
I was into
uh,
the bead things. Do y'all know what those are? The
for like
The
the
perler
artwork,
beads.
yeah, what are they called? I can't remember.
Perler beads.
Perler beads. Perler beads. We
Yeah,
have
I my kids can do that at my mother's house. Those don't come to my house. They're too
oh
small. They can
no.
draw and like as you can see, we paint in our
Yes.
house, but no perler beads.
okay, Lexi, pick a number between 1 and 20.
18.
Okay, so Ruth Pearson, you are our winner. You can email us. We have a new email address, the Queens at buzzing about romance. And you can email us and I will send out our basket of goodies to you, Miss Ruth. Uh thank you. Does anyone have any other questions before we head out? I don't want to if anybody had any questions, they can feel free to ask before we say goodbye, as we've kind of gotten a little off topic now, which happens, right?
Yeah, that happens with me a lot.
The more vodka you give me, the less on topic I stay. We do have, if you guys haven't joined us, we do have Drunk Book Club. You can find out more information on our website at bookcaseandcoffee.com. It's a lot of fun. This
It's a
last
good
month,
time.
this last month we read Bad MF by Jacinda Wilder, and that was a lot of fun. She and her husband Jack are going to join us for an evening together for us to ask them questions. Because I guess they write together, which I think is adorable.
Yeah,
I don't know that
I
I
would
could write with her.
kill mine. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah. Like him working from home for 10 months was was a lot. But I
Mm.
love him. I mean, I love him and I love spending time with him. Don't anyone get me wrong, but it was a lot of togetherness in
Mine
quarantine.
was
Yeah,
home for 3 weeks, and that was 3 weeks too many.
I'm very lucky we got our first vaccine shot. My husband and I and our son got our first vaccine this week. And so I'm like, look, in 6 weeks I can eat out. I
I know.
deserve to eat out. I'm too beautiful for people not to be giving me drinks. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
I
I
you're the
miss,
queen now. You
I
got
am
to be
signed
served.
up and ready to get that little needle in my arm more than I've
yeah,
ever wanted anything. I want out of my house.
right. Like, we got it, and our girl child did not get it yet because she's only
Yeah.
15 and a half. And we had to get Pfizer and you have to be 16. And
Hmm.
she's very jealous and she's like, I don't want to be left behind. I'm like, sweetie, you're going to be okay. And you can still go with us. Don't worry. We're not leaving you behind. Um, it will be okay. But yeah, I miss like sitting at the Mexican restaurant and eating chips and salsa and drinking margaritas for 2 hours or day drinking at the brewery. Like these are my fun things.
We used to have these really great girls' night outs where we go to the movie place where they have a bar in the movie, and we go and we drink at the bar first, and then we go sit in the movie and we drink, and then we come out afterwards because we should probably have a couple of drinks and discuss what we just watched.
Of course.
That's amazing.
I want that near me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I'm a
fun.
little sad.
It's fun. I sometimes don't remember the movie,
Well, that's
but
fair.
I remember the
You
fun
remember the
I had.
fun.
Yes, I remember the friendship.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the important part anyway.
I miss the connections. I think that that's one of the hardest parts that quarantine has been particularly because our isolation has been very limited, you know. And since it's been cold here in Ohio, we haven't been able to gather outside. At least this summer, we were able to gather outside with our friends, and because it's now winter, we can't sit out on my patio together. I miss my friends. I haven't really seen my friends since October, and
I have
I
seen them
miss.
on Zoom.
Yes,
That's about it.
they text me very often. I just miss, and in that time my husband has taken up whiskey collecting,
Oh.
which so Lexi, probably I'll be like, "Hey, guess what? I'm in Texas this week," because over near Austin, Texas is this distillery called the Crowded Barrel Distillery that my husband is a part of their Patreon. And they have a YouTube channel called The Whiskey Tribe, and they do nothing but like sample different whiskeys and talk about whiskey and all the things that go into whiskey and the difference between Scotch, whiskey, and bourbon.
Uh-huh.
And it's like an obsession for him. And if my husband didn't work at a university, my child's college education is currently invested in a whiskey collection.
Nice. Okay.
Just saying. So if you
So
like whiskey,
Catherine would like to know, did you watch Bridgerton?
Oh my God. Did I? Yes. Yes. I didn't just watch Bridgerton. I
You
obsessed over Bridgerton, and I read the books. So I mean, I remember really vividly the first time I watched Bridgerton, because I've watched it a couple times, ending up and like the end comes up, and I just sat down and cried because for the first time somebody took our genre seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not surprising to me that it was Shonda Rhimes and her group. I just like, it was somebody lavished affection on this one of our stories, and it wasn't just a tacked on thing. It was given this amazing gorgeous sets, and and the music, and I mean everything was perfect about that series. And if
you know,
anybody doesn't like it, they can fight me.
right? Fight me.
They'll have to find me, but
I was a little worried when I saw Shonda Rhimes' name attached to it because, How to Get Away with Murder and what's the
Scandal.
one with Olivia Scandal? They're all a
Mhm.
little crazy sauce. And I
Yeah.
thought, okay, how much crazy sauce can I handle in my Bridgerton? Because while I love Julia Quinn and that lady is a freaking rock star, I actually prefer her Smith Smythe series. That's my favorite of her grouping. Um because I just like that those characters are super awkward and super
Mhm.
weird. Um but I worried, like what is Shonda Rhimes going to do to this? How much scandal can I appreciate into my Bridgertons, because I love this genre and it's important to me. And that's actually what spawned the podcast. When it was first announced, I said to everyone who would listen to me, I really want to do a podcast because I want to make sure that we're talking about this. Because I was really worried it was going to be this quiet release and nobody was going to talk about it.
Mhm.
Boy, was I
Oh.
wrong.
Ooh.
56 million, I think, was the
Yeah.
last
It,
number I
it's that.
saw.
And
Number
it's still in the
one
top 10 at
most
Netflix.
watched
Yeah.
ever on Netflix.
Yeah, at least
Because you give women these things, we will come out in droves. It's never been offered to us. And say what you like about it. People watch 365 DNI, that crazy pants, like, you can do these stories, and people are going to watch them. What really bugs me is when we view sex as something that's dirtier than chopping somebody's head off. Like, you can do whatever you want violence wise, but watching a consensual romantic scene is somehow,
right.
Taboo.
disqualified.
Yeah. I did read one of the arcs of 365, and I have so many thoughts about it. The book, I wish that I knew Polish so I could read the original
Oh,
writing
it's
of it.
crazy pants. It's utterly crazy pants, but
It
I'm kind
is.
of glad it exists.
It does exist, and I'm glad that it does too. I really just wish, like, first of all, I think Penelope Sky, one of her books, would be
Uh-huh.
better. I think would be better. I think she's a better writer. But the translation happened, It was a man who translated it from Polish
Uh,
to English. He had no business doing that. It needed to be a woman because I think that we lost something in the translation. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
I'm happy, very happy when we get more screen time.
Yes. And even with our little hiccups that we like, well, and this week wasn't really a little hiccup, it was a big ass blow
Yeah.
up this week. Even when we have these stumbling moments in our genre, there is so much good coming out of this genre. I look at like what the romance writers did with Stacey Abrams.
Oh yeah.
And she is my unicorn. I love her. I actually had Liz from Entangled on an episode earlier this week. We did a State of Romance episode, and Liz came on as one of our guests where we talked about romance in 2021 and what we can expect. Um, and I'm working with her because I really want to talk to Stacey Abrams. Like, she is my unicorn. Because that lady is like badass. She writes
She
romance.
writes romance.
She writes,
Selena Montgomery,
yes,
right?
as Selena
Yeah.
Montgomery. And then she's super smart, this social activist. I mean, she's kind of a badass. I'm
Oh,
just
she's
saying.
not kind of a badass. She's badass. Flat out badass. And you know
Kinda.
what that group, I think it was who was it? It was Courtney Milan. Who did Romancing the Runoff? Courtney Milan and
It was
um
Avery Flynn, Courtney Milan, and someone
oh my
else
gosh,
organized it.
people I follow on Twitter that I cannot remember their names right now.
Right.
I mean, it was 400. Was it
No,
$400,000?
they ended up raising over $500,000 for that Georgia runoff.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Whatever side of the political you fall onto, the only thing I will say to that is it shows what a community of women that can come together and do big things.
Yeah.
And that is the power of romance. We are a community of women, mostly women. There are some men in our community that we can come together and we can do big things. And it's amazing. So,
Other people might not take us seriously, but we take ourselves pretty seriously.
yeah.
And
And
we
there's,
know what we can do and what we put out in the world.
yeah. And I love that you brought up earlier sex positive. Your books are sex positive, and that's something that I've tried very hard to instill in my children, to instill into my community that, sex isn't this dirty little secret. That it's everybody's doing it. There's,
It is normal and natural. And it's really funny because when I talk to people, going back to the idea of, you can get, you can be PG and have like all these murders, these really graphic murders, but you show a boob and it's rated R.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I always ask them, so you let your kids watch these horror movies, which I also love. I'm a big horror fan, but you let your kid watch these horror movies, but you freak out if they see even the tiniest bit of a sex scene where one of them, you kind of hope that they participate in one day if they're a normal, natural, happy human being. And maybe you don't want them to cut off someone's head. So shouldn't you like frame that as a natural, normal thing that healthy human beings do and it's okay?
Yeah.
yep, yep, that's it. I agree. It's because it's natural, it's normal. We should be talking about it.
But I also read Sky O'Malley at the age of 14, so
Well, I was stealing my mother's Jude Devereaux's at 14 and
I was
15.
reading those too.
Yeah.
She was the
Yeah,
So,
big,
and I used to closet read like my mom's Harlequins
oh
like
my
when I
God,
was
I still to this day
14.
sometimes go into a closet to read because it just feels comfortable. Because that's what I used to do. I
I
do.
was so much younger and I wasn't supposed to be reading them yet, so I would just like take them and just hide in like a corner of my bedroom so nobody could see me. And
I remember the first romance novel I ever stole from my mother. So, just funny story, and I tell this all the time, and people are probably tired of hearing it. My mom and Jude Devereaux went to college together.
Mhm. Oh, cool.
So, one of the first books that I ever stole from my mother was The Conquest by Jude Devereaux, which is um it's a medieval romance. It's knights and pages and all that kind of stuff. And there's mistaken identity in that book. And I stole it from my mom. I didn't know if I was supposed to read it or not, but I needed a book to read, and I stayed up all night in my bedroom with my flashlight under my covers, and the next morning she went to wake me up. I hadn't been to bed yet. I had not been to bed yet because I had been up all night reading this book, and she's like, "Okay, it's time to go to school," and I'm like, "I think I'm sick." And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "I haven't slept yet." She's like, "You have to go to school." And I'm like, "No, I think I'm sick." I went to school, but the moment school and, like, I hid it under the bed because I didn't know if I was supposed to be reading this or not. And the moment I came home, I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna read this some more." And that was just like, the end of it. And then I read Her Eden, which was, super naughty. And then I got into the Joanna Lindsay's and the
Oh, I love the Joanna
Judith
Lindsay's.
Judith McNaught. Like,
Hmm.
my
Yep.
favorite
Whitney, my
read
love.
is Whitney, My Love. That is my all-time. Everyone's like, "What made you fall in love with romance?" Whitney, My Love. Because she was not a typical female lead. It was a mistaken identity. He was the pursuer. There's just so much in that book I love. Um, anyway, Catherine says she read Julie Garwood at 13. Yes, we, I same
Yeah, and can I
13.
point out that on another little Twitter thing we had, strangely enough, I still managed to get married and have a happy life. It didn't like ruin to an IT guy. It did not ruin my expectations of what I should have. Yeah, there was somebody on Twitter who was doing this, you know, romance really sets up terrible expectations for young girls. And I'm like, we're smart enough to know what is fantasy and what is reality. We just are. Nobody says, you know, why science fiction sets up terrible notions for boys. They'll think that they can go into Space Force or something.
Right.
No.
Well, and my husband, so we've been married 22 years. I've been reading romance for 30 years. I want to make him a sweatshirt that says she reads romance, but I'm her HEA,
Oh,
because he is so respectful of what I read. And he's actually, he's read a couple books. He just recently read Stacey Kennedy's Watch Me, which is one of her newer releases, that involves some voyeurism and a sex club and stuff. And he read that for me because he knew I thought it was super steamy. And he's like, "I want to kind of see what you're reading and what this is about." And he's not a reader. He's an IT guy. And he's super respectful of what I read. And I don't
mine
think
has
it
read
creates.
every book I've ever written. Every word I've ever written, he's read.
That's so
That's
awesome.
awesome.
He
I
is my
love
last
that.
line proofreader. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that.
And he sometimes is like, baby, I know that this was the fight we had 2 weeks ago. Should we talk? And I'm like, no, we're good.
We're good. We're okay. I forgave you. Um, Colleen says, "I can't remember my mom reading romance when I was a kid, but I got her to read a lot of romance in the last 4 years." Um, and then Colleen says, "Gotta protect our poor, weak female minds." Insert eye roll here.
That's right.
It's
Novel
very
reading
true.
will take us all down.
Yeah. It's funny. I never, it's been years since I've seen that, like, don't read romance. It gives you unrealistic expectation. To be honest, it doesn't. I had a really phenomenal father. Like, my father was very kind, very respectful, very thoughtful. He made it harder for my husband than any romance book ever did. Just because he was reeling in the flesh, and I saw the way that he treated my mother and how much he built my sister and I up. And so, really, it's not romance's fault. It's your father. He dictates how you're being treated. Um, anyway, before we go here, does anyone have any more questions? Catherine says romance is a way to escape from reality for her. We all need that. Exactly. And just note to you, Lexi, I do not want COVID in my romances. So
see, that was why I had the brilliant step of moving forward 7 years. I had already
yeah.
had that planned, but I got to just go, no, there's no COVID because it happened in the past.
I do not need pandemic in my romance.
And
And I
I get to
actually
make up technology that'll be around 7 years from now.
perfect. That
It's
is
a plus
totally my
plus.
gag. So thank you everyone for joining us. Um, and don't forget, Ruth, make sure you email us so that I can send you out your goodie bag. And